So I read the book whole, and it has really opened my eyes in a lot of different ways. And I want to kind of share with you guys some of those different ways that this book has changed me, changed my mindset. So some of the things I already knew, like the United States spends more per capita on healthcare than any other country in the world, and yet we are at the bottom of all of the industrialized nations. It's always good to read stuff like this to kind of reinforce your beliefs and to also learn it in such a way. Like, it's one thing to learn something and read through a book, but it's another thing to be able to explain it clearly and simply to other people. And that is what I feel like us vegans really need to do. As far as vegan activism, I think it's really important to be able to state facts and use sources and stuff so that people can't just dismiss you quite as easily. I know that there's a strong vegan for the animals community, and a lot of people think that that is the way to go about activism, and to each his or her own, for sure. But I personally feel like I knew about animal cruelty, and for some reason I had such a disconnect, whether it was cellular or whether it was mental or both. I'm sure it was both. But I knew about factory farming, and I even knew, the environmental destruction. But it takes a few times to hear something before it sinks in. I was always taught that with multi-level marketing. Usually nobody signs up, to join your team or whatever on the first try. Usually it takes an average of like 12 tries or times of hearing about it before you finally accept it. And I think it's the same thing with veganism. Another thing that I already knew, of course, was that animal agriculture is the biggest contributor to environmental destruction. But I did learn additionally that the aquifers are really going dry, in addition to like all the greenhouse gases, the poisoning of the water and the land, and all these other things in the rainforest. Like our aquifers are actually running out because of how much water it takes. So, it's one thing to hear, oh, California's in a drought, and hear all these water facts about beef and different meats, but it's another thing to hear that actually these aquifers, these ancient aquifers, are actually running out of water. We're depleting them faster, mainly to produce meat. So that's really kind of a scary thing, and any environmentalist is gonna, take heed of that. And so, again, I really feel like environmentalism affects everybody. I feel like when you go on a health side and you're trying to help people, it's like it's a way to get into people's selfish minds. But the environmentalism is like the best of both worlds, because you're protecting the animals. You can be selfish and protect yourself and your family for future generations and all of that. But it's really something that people can't deny, even if they're like green, like climate change denialists or whatever. Like, there's still very valid things that we could do to help the environment now, and that's something where it comes, you come from the heart, and you're trying to change people for the better of everyone, not just try to be like better than them, or everybody thinks vegans are just judging everybody. And I mean, at least that's my experience. So when I take the conversation to, hey, I'm just trying to save the world, for generations to come, it takes that whole selfless point out of it. So again, I really highly recommend to learn the facts, have some catchphrases memorized so that you can talk to people about this. And I just really feel that that's important. And I see a lot of people quote the statistic of, I think it's 13 or 14% of greenhouse gases are caused by animal agriculture. Actually, the statistic that I like to use is greater than 51%. That's the statistics that they use on Cowspiracy. And those are the more updated statistics. And, it's not just about the methane, which I did learn in this book that methane actually, I think, it was about 70 to 75 times worse than carbon dioxide for the environment. And not only that, but it's very much easier to bring down methane. Once you start decreasing the levels of methane that are outputted, then the actual levels of methane in the environment come down very rapidly, as opposed to carbon dioxide. Even if we stopped putting carbon dioxide into the environment, according to Hull and Colin Campbell, it would take a lot longer for the environment to actually respond. So it's much more important for climate change that we actually get rid of these, of this extra methane. There's a bunch of other things that I learned. Diabetes doubled between 1980 and 2010. And the way that he speaks, it's like almost completely prevented and reversed type 2 diabetes with a whole food plant-based diet or lifestyle. He says 95% of all cancers are preventable with a whole food plant-based lifestyle, and almost all of heart disease. So I've been kind of focused on those aspects because it just doesn't make sense to me that our number one and our number two killers are so prevalent and yet get so little attention personally and in the media and everything else. And another thing is that the third the third leading cause of death, I've heard this, I've heard Dr. Greger talk about it, I've heard a lot of different people talk about this. The third leading cause of death in the United States is actually medical interventions. And I'll go into this in a different video, but it's, the CDC doesn't admit it like that because they like to break down the medical errors into different medical errors, but if you pile them all together, it is absolutely the third leading cause of death. So basically, your top 3 leading causes of death, and then other ones too, stroke. The top 3 is heart disease, cancer, medical interventions, and then I think between the 4th and 6th there is strokes and diabetes, or if not, they're right up there, and it's definitely all preventable with a whole foods plant-based lifestyle. So those are just some basic things that I wanted to speak to you guys about today in regards to what's been going on in my mind lately. And as for me going raw vegan, I am still wanting to kind of aim for it. But again, I really feel like, especially after reading this book, I just really want to focus on doing whole food plant-based more. So, especially because it seems that I am getting undercarbed and I don't want to cheat myself out of any carbs or any energy or anything like that just for the purity idea of staying raw. However, like I said, I am still going to be aiming for that kind of goal and that kind of lifestyle. So it still might take some, transition for me, but I'm definitely going in that direction. So stay tuned. I'm going to be doing a lot more specific videos on different things that I learned in Hull. And I'm actually about to do an interview right now that will also be posted on YouTube by Ion Health, pretty good friend of mine, online friend. So stay tuned. I'll be getting back into the flow of doing videos. I've got about 3 or 4 weeks before I am back in school. So I just kind of took off some of this week, even though I was already back from vacation, so that I could kind of get organized and get my head on straight. And I'm getting my oldest into football, tackle football, which has been crazy. And not really looking forward to that, but wishing for the best. So thanks for watching. Take care. And don't forget to eat your fruit, and I'll talk to you guys soon.